In 1876, my great-grandparents set sail from Cornwall to settle on the copper fields of Moonta. It was on board the sailing ship Lady Jocelyn that my grandfather was born. Moonta on the York Peninsula in South Australia is part of the Copper Triangle, which combines Wallaroo and Kadina. Deciding to visit the town in 2007, we lodged at the Cornwall Hotel, originally known as the Globe.
No room service here, but a large dining area and lounge where we could help ourselves to breakfast food, cereals, bread, milk, tea and coffee, and relaxing comfort as our need might be. Near the hotel we found a coin-operated laundry, a building which seemed out of character in this old miners' town, where many of the old 19th century buildings still portray the old mining days. Let's get to the detergent. Another historic hotel in town is the Royal.
Many old stone buildings in the town have been well cared for and preserved, and signboards around the streets contain old photographs depicting the scenes of yesteryear. A heritage walk commences at the Rotunda in Queen's Square, and an hour's walk covers the historic buildings in the town. Queen's Square was named in honour of Queen Victoria on the 25th anniversary of the incorporation of the town in 1897. This parkland was originally a limestone quarry from which material had been excavated for building purposes.
The mine shaft monument commemorates the copper centenary, 1861 to 1961. Loudspeakers on poles near the park played soft music. The rotunda was built in 1995 for the use of visitors and citizens of Moonta. The fountain was presented to the town by the first mayor, Charles Drew, in 1893.
Across from the park is the town hall, erected in 1885. The clock tower and clock were added in 1907. This important building has been the centre of Moonta's municipal and social activities for over a century. To the southwest of the park is Moonta Uniting Church, formerly the Methodist Church, built in 1873. It is built of coarse limestone walling in the Gothic style of architecture. Many of Moonta's historic buildings are located in George Street. Among them are the Marshall Building, erected in 1873, built with dark stone from the Moonta mine and coloured with limestone coins.
The National Bank, completed in 1867, and alongside is what was Burke's Chemist Shop, built by Mr. N. Burks in 1867, and now Seymour Crafts Shop. And what could be more Cornish than Cousin Jack's Bakehouse, where we stopped for a Cornish pasty. A variety of shops and cafes line the streets of Moonta, scattered amongst the historical buildings in the townsite, many of which are still in use today. The name Moonta was derived from the Aboriginal Moontera, meaning impenetrable scrub. But Moonta was a mining town, and much evidence of this remains today. The Moonta School of Mines is now used as a resource centre for local and family history. It was originally a Baptist church in 1866 and converted in 1891 to the School of Mines. Next door is what was the Baptist manse.
About 2 kilometres southeast of the town, we came to Moonta Mines. Evidence of the Hughes engine house of 1865 still remains. It housed a 60-inch Cornish beam pumping engine which operated until 1923. In this photo of 1898 are the settling pits for slimes from Richmond's concentration plant. Several more photos give an insight into Moonta Mines at the end of the 19th century. Not far away we came across a typical miner's cottage, faithfully preserved. Note the distinctive stake fences to keep out the goats.
Nearby is the Moonta Mines Methodist Church. A short distance from here was the Moonta Mines School, built in 1877 and used as a school until 1968. It is now owned by the National Trust and houses a museum. Inside is an array of memorabilia, including models of the old mines and cartoons of the Cornish miners' lifestyle and hardship back in the late 1800s. We were delighted to meet a lady who was willing to recite for us the Lord's Prayer in the Cornish language.
Now?
Yes, ma'am.
Pada Agan Ala, the Lord's Prayer, in Canuic, in Cornish. Agan Tasni, Easin Naif, Benigis Rabo the Hanno, Raidefo the Luesco, the Vorth Rabo Grays, in Nor Cava Hagan Naif, Rothani Hesu Agan Barra Put Death Hagathin Agan Cameth, Cabadil Evanini, then Reina Iso Campbell, Agan Penny. Halara Agan Gora in Temptation, Mays delivereth the Worth Drog, Rag this Oji Yun Rascal, Han Gallus, Han Gordians, Bespeaken Habaneri, and Delarabo. Amen. That's all.
Thank you.
A horse-drawn tram system was constructed through George Street in 1892, linking Moonta Bay in 1892 and East Moonta and Hamley Flat in 1896. The tram system closed in 1931. Adjacent to the mines school is the tourist railway, on which we take a 50-minute ride on this narrow gauge line. It is an enlightening trip through the ruins of old mine workings. The engineer gave me a quick look through the engine shed as he opened up for the afternoon's run. A few minutes later, we were off on a ride through some of the Hancock and Ryan mine sites. At the diggings of the mine shaft, we passed an ore floor and McDonald's Lode, which had extended for a length of about 1,500 metres. In May 1861, a pastoralist and retired sea captain, Mr. W. Hughes, held a farming lease on this land when a shepherd, Patrick Bryant, discovered traces of copper in earth burrowed from a wombat
This
hole.
land was leased by a Water Watson Hughes. He was an old Scottish sea captain retired, and he was leasing 104 square mile of land around here. It's a sheep run, or we call them sheep stations these days. But the 104 square acres of land it took in Wallaroo, Moota, Kadina, and went South Australia started, which is in Kadina, and this one here. The one here was discovered by Patrick Ryan.
The Moonta field consisted of several mines, the large ones being Moonta, Parramatta, Hamley and Mid-Moonta. The Moonta Mining Company was the first in Australia to pay £1 million in dividends to its shareholders. The Moonta Mining Company and the Wallaroo Mining Company amalgamated in 1889. The mines worked until 1923, when the company went into liquidation. Since 1960, exploration companies have located small zones of copper, which have proved economic. Arriving at the old precipitation tanks, we stopped at a heritage site and were given a talk by our driver while we viewed many photographs on the wall.
Basically all the information centre they call it these days, and back. But between the information centre and Crossroads at North Fielder on the way into Moonta, there was approximately 20 to 25 mine shafts. And that's what they looked like in those days. Just those boys from 8-year-old, or mainly from 16 to 10-year-old, but there's some known as young as 8-year-old who worked on those picket lines. And all they did is pick the copper out from the rubbish, and they worked on 8-hour shifts on a 3-shift basis. And in 1875, the government of the day made it a law that everyone had to be educated. So these boys, if they worked on the picket line during the day, they went to school at night time. A few photos here from Ryan's pump station, which is the next building down here. That's where they mix the acid and so on. And this photo here is the back end of that wall there where the fire's going. Look at this photo here. They got great blocks of wood on their shoes, because when they worked in this area here, to keep the feet out of the acid, they put 8-inch or 10-inch blocks of wood on their boots. In this photo, a lady's wearing it. They would have been her husband's shoes, because back in those days, no lady was allowed to work on the mine, because they were classed as bad luck. I come from the Broken Hill mines, and they're working in every department these days.
Approaching the end of the line, we passed the Moonta railway station. At one time, a horse-drawn tram linked Moonta from here to the towns of Wallaroo and Moonta Bay.
If you have a look at the foyer of this building, and left-hand side of the building is all photo displays there.
On our return journey, we again passed much of what we had already witnessed. However, as the train did a loop back near the end of the line, we snapped some photos of the variety of equipment used when the mines were in operation.
Next day, we visited the old Moonta railway station, where the Moonta flag flew proudly between the Australian and the black and white flag of Cornwall. This station opened in 1909, replacing the original one of wood built in 1878. A horse-drawn tramway linked Moonta to Wallaroo and later to Moonta Bay. A locomotive replaced the horses in 1892. Today, the station houses many historical photographs and much memorabilia of this old mining town. Nearby, a small building displays a restored German World War I field gun captured by the Australian Army. The gun arrived in Moonta in June 1919.
The Moonta Cemetery gives sad testimony to the hard times of the Copper Age here. Many young children succumbed to the harsh conditions of the late 1800s. My great-grandmother, at the age of 38 years, lies buried here in this plot of earth. Grandfather left Moonta about 1898 and moved to WA, taking on the bakery trade. Kennewick Lowenda, the Cornish festival, is held every second year, taking in Kadina, Wallaroo and Moonta. Moonta today continues to maintain its Cornish roots as the cousin Jacks and Jennies of the Cornish people of South Australia.